Thank you, Alan. Yes, I will. Shall I hold them up, Mr. J? Hold them up. If you have index cards, hold them up. Someone will come around and take them from you. By the way, Alan, those were not glitches that occurred. Glitches are accidents. We know damn well that if we were allowed to inspect the software that we were using, if folks like you were able to go through this stuff, they would find out that this stuff doesn't work. And whenever they do, whenever anyone looks at these machines, like the folks in Princeton, guess what? Surprise, surprise, they find that they don't work. Why are we not allowed to look at the secret software that counts our votes? Anyway, our next speaker is, some of you may have heard of her. She showed up, you may know her from a little film by the name of Fahrenheit 9/11. She's been fighting this good fight much longer than certainly I have, and she was standing there all the way back in 2000 saying this doesn't stand and the people's votes must be counted. Ladies and gentlemen, serving her 8th term in the U.S. House, the one, the only, Congresswoman Maxine Waters.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I want you to know how good it is to be home here in Los Angeles and out of Washington, D.C. Secondly, I want you to know that progressive Democrats of America, Southern California, grassroots, are leading the fight to turn this country around, not only on this issue, but all of the issues that we need to be dealing with as public policy makers that are not being dealt with in Washington and even in the state of California. And I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I want to thank you for the encouragement and inspiration you're giving to mealy-mouthed Democrats, making us speak up, speak out, and do the work that we should be doing. Thank you. Thank you. Most of you know that I spent 3 weekends in Connecticut, and going there was again very, very educational and inspirational for me. Having been in this business for so long, I really had forgotten how removed people are from this voting system that we have right here in our own country. People are disconnected. They don't believe much in it anymore. They're uninvolved, and we're sitting around talking about why aren't people voting, when actually we're not doing the work that we should be doing to ensure that every vote counts, that voting is a good experience and not a frustrating experience, and that people don't feel intimidated and people feel as if we want them to participate. And so, in Connecticut, I discovered that one elected official had not been to one part of his district in 18 years. 18 years. I was over at a diner called the Ragin' Cajun, where people come to talk about politics and what happened on television last evening, and, you know, to talk about elected officials, but they talk among themselves without participation by the elected officials. And when I asked them about Senator Lieberman, when was the last time they had seen him, they said, "Are you kidding? He doesn't come here." I said, "What do you mean? He only comes every now and then?" They said, "He has never been to North Hartford. In 18 years, he's never been here." And so, when I went out to walk precincts against him that day, I walked harder than I'd ever walked before. I was last weekend up in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, where a young man who's just won the primary, Mr. Keith Ellison, good progressive Democrat, is going to be a member of Congress. But I was reminded there that we should have same-day registration in every state in America. Why don't we have it? They have same-day registration in Minnesota, and it gives you the opportunity to get on the street corners, talk with people, to take your vans, even if people have never voted, never registered to vote. With work on election day, you can encourage people to come to the polls to vote. They can get registered right then. California needs same-day registration, and we should fight for it. And we're going to talk with Debbie Bowen about it, and if anybody will do it, she will. She is a wonderful representative, and she will make a wonderful Secretary of State, and we know that she will do everything possible to make sure that we involve everybody in the voting process. In the Congress of the United States, we just finally reauthorized the Voting Rights Act. And the Voting Rights Act is that act that protects basically minorities and those people who had been excluded from participation in voting in this country for so many years. However, let me just say this. It's outdated. It's outdated because the Voting Rights Act basically is concerned about some of the old acts, some of the old tricks that were employed to keep people from voting. It was about literacy tests. It was about poll tax. It was about those kinds of things. And in it, we have something called Section 5 that says if you have a history, county or city or state, of certain kinds of actions that would preclude people from participating, that would eliminate their ability to participate in the system, you have to come before the Justice Department. Under Section 5, you can't just do anything you want to do. If you want to make changes in the law, if you want to make changes in procedures, you have to bring them before the Justice Department, and they have to agree that what you're attempting to do is okay, that it will not prevent or preclude people from participation. Well, that's even outdated. It's outdated because we're living at a time when there's a Justice Department that is connected to the President of the United States of America and an Attorney General that's doing what they tell him to do in the White House, and they're not protecting us even under the Voting Rights Act. Remember, in Georgia, where they required unreasonable identification, they took that to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department turned them down. We had workers who had been in the Justice Department for years who quit because the Attorney General refused to honor the intentions of the Voting Rights Act and stop them from employing these tactics of requiring certain kinds of voter ID, identification that you have to pay for, that only fits a certain criteria. And he not only undermined the Voting Rights Act in doing that, he showed us that you cannot count on a Justice Department when you have an administration and a president who's part of the problem rather than part of the solution. And so, we have got to not only work on all of the problems that we are learning about voting systems in this country and all of the states and the various things that are being done, if we really want to correct the problems of voting and make sure every vote counts and everybody can vote, the first thing we've got to do is get rid of the President of the United States of America, George W. Bush, and elect a president who is going to make good appointments, who's going to appoint people to that position in the Justice Department that will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and work on behalf of the people rather than against the people. That's what we're going to have to do. That must be at the top of our agenda. Now, having said that, we passed the Voting Rights Act, but you know, now we're in court. We're being sued because we have right-wing conservatives who want to challenge the fact that they still are supposedly under the watchful eye of the Justice Department and who want to get rid of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. So you can see that not only are we working on the new problems in election systems and voting systems, we're still trying to protect some of what we thought was protected under the Voting Rights Act, and all of that at this point in time is really outdated. We have to move on not only to deal with those elected officials who should be protecting us, but we've got to deal with the friends of the elected officials who support and help to push the idea that their friends who manufacture some of these machines are getting these contracts and getting the ability to determine whether or not we're using their machines or other systems that would perhaps serve us better. And you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the friends of George W. Bush, the Debo folks who have these machines that are questionable, that are being challenged, that should be challenged, and that most of us believe can be manipulated in ways that undermine the outcome. So we've got a lot of work to do, Now, I want to bring your attention to something that you've been talking about here all morning. The morning of September 12, 2006, during Maryland's primary, this so-called error by election officials prevented election machines countywide from working on time and requiring many voters to cast paper provisional ballots. I have heard the description of what took place over and over again. First of all, people went to the polling places and, of course, they were not ready. They stood in line waiting. They had to get to work. Finally, they were told, sorry, you can't vote, and said, come back later on. People had to leave. Many of them, I believe, did not go back. Then there were people who waited in line, and then they went to an alternative of paper ballots. I heard just today that they didn't even take the paper ballots out in some places. But in some places, they didn't even have the paper ballots, and they had people writing on just pieces of paper who it was they wanted to vote for. And so you can't even call that a provisional ballot. We don't know how many votes in that election were simply not counted. We know that people did not get a chance to participate, but we also believe that there were many votes where people attempted to use alternative methods that were not counted, and that should not be happening in this day and age. We've got a lot of work to do, and our work does not start on Election Day. Our work starts now. What you're doing now is extremely important, but you've got to take it several steps further. First of all, how many people have visited the county registrar of voters' office ever? We need a delegation. We need a delegation, Progressive Democrats of America, to go to every county registrar of voters' office and have them walk us through the system. Now, we've only got a short period of time before November. They should walk us through the system. And we should sit down and make up our questions, and we should scrutinize every aspect of the system prior to Election Day so that we can get corrections and file suits if we have to make sure that we have systems that we can count on. So we need to do that now. We also need to take over the polling places on Election Day. Now, don't forget, one of the things they will tell you is we don't have enough people to man these polls on Election Day. We don't have enough people who want to work. We're paying a little money. We're recruiting. We're up on the internet. We're doing everything that we can, but we just don't have enough people. Let's give them enough people. Let's give them enough people. Let's decide that we're going to recruit for them. Let's not leave the recruiting up to them. Let's decide we're going to recruit for them in every place that we are in contact with people. Let's recruit in the churches. Let's recruit in the labor union halls. Let's recruit in the social clubs. Let's recruit in the bars. Let's recruit in the taverns, wherever you are. Do your own recruiting. Get names, addresses, and telephone numbers of people who say they will work on Election Day. Let's take them down to the election office and force them to follow up with telephone calls and emails and invite people into the training sessions. And let's check to make sure they followed up on the list that we gave them. And let's get these polling places manned so that we don't have the excuses about not enough people, so we had to do consolidations. Deborah Bowen, I want you to outlaw consolidations when you become the Secretary of State. No more consolidations of polling places. When you consolidate these polling places, it simply means people have to go further and further away from their communities in order to vote, which requires transportation. Many people don't have the transportation. It's a great inconvenience. And so these are some of the things that we should be doing in order to take back our ability to ensure that every citizen has the right to vote and that their vote will be counted. Ladies and gentlemen, this should be at the top of the agenda of the Democratic Party, the top of the agenda of the Democratic Caucus of the Congress of the United States and of the Senate of the United States. I wish I could speak for Republicans. They're not going to put anything at the top of the agenda. They benefit from much of what is going on. When we take a look at who did what in Florida and Ohio and all of that places, unfortunately, we're finding that it's Republicans who are creating many of the problems that we have. Another thing that we ought to be doing is we ought to be going up to Ohio to make sure that Kenneth Blackwell does not get elected governor up there, because he's responsible for what went on in Ohio. And so I believe that our work can be done, it must be done, in addition to the power that we take as elected, not as elected officials, as citizens. We've got to elect people who are going to support the idea that every vote must be counted and everybody should vote. And if they don't have it as part of their agenda, as part of their platform, you got to ask them why. When they come out to your neighborhoods and to your organizations to talk with you about elections, about getting reelected, you've got to find out why they're not talking to you about voting and reform of voting, reform of election systems. Until we force them to put it at the top of these agendas, it will not happen. I'm delighted to be here with you today. It's time for me to wrap up. You know what's going on in Washington, D.C. It is not an easy place to be right now. We're fighting in every conceivable way. I am worried about the future of this country for so many reasons. We have a president in the White House who has placed us all at great risk. We are not safer because of this so-called war on terrorism. We are at great risk because you have got a president who has made enemies get together in the Middle East who are all turning on us. We've become the hate object of so many people and nations around the world. I wish we had time to talk about it, but at the top of our agenda must be stopping this war in Iraq, Afghanistan, bringing the troops home, bringing our money back, placing our priorities on the domestic agenda, making sure that we're dealing with peace and not war, making sure we've turned our attention to education and health care and voting rights and all of those things that America could stand for. And I thank you so very much for having me here today. Where is Michael J.? Ladies and gentlemen, when we had a town hall meeting on Out of Iraq, something wonderful happened. And it happened because of this small little magic technological device that we love so much, the cell phone. And I'm going to have Michael J., the chair of the strategy committee and organizer of this event, come up and talk about what we're about to do.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi. Maxine, I'm sorry. I'd love to. I'm on the phone.
You're on the phone?
Yeah. I'm on the phone with Fox News. Hi, Nydia. How are you? It's Michael calling back. I'm just here with a few friends. And actually, one person who's here is Congresswoman Maxine Waters of Los Angeles. And we'd just love to talk to Fox News a moment about something we'd like to see covered that we don't think is being covered. Let me hand you over, okay? Thanks so much.
Hello, Fox News.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing? We have a room, we have a church full of people here, all organized today.
Hello?
Hi, did you hear them?
Yes, I did.
All right. You want to talk to us about voting rights?
Go ahead.
Oh, well, let me just say that we have people here who are focused on making right a terrific wrong in this country. We are now very much aware of what took place in Florida in 2000, what took place in Ohio, what has taken place all over America, where people are being denied their voting rights in so many different ways. We have voting machines that do not work, that have no paper trail, that can be tampered with, and we cannot trust them, and we've got to get rid of them and get voting systems that work. We've got still intimidation methods that are being employed in so many places that's discouraging voters from exercising their right to vote, and we've got to protect the citizens of this nation and stop allowing any trick to be employed that will discourage voters, particularly at the polling place, and turn them away and send them home. Did you get that? Okay, you have any questions?
No.
Well, we have some questions for you. Are you going to help us get the word out about correcting the ills in the voting systems in America? You're Fox News, right?
Yes.
Okay, and Fox News is the news organization of and for the people, isn't that right?
Yes. I'm not sure what exactly we're doing here. I wasn't told that this was going to be part of the deal.
Oh, I see. Well, a little bit of a surprise, I suppose. I thought that you understood that we were going to introduce you to what we were doing here today. And sometimes we have to be a little bit flexible. So I will ask you to just bear with us. You must be curious about some of the problems we're discussing here today.
I am, but as you know, this is also the assignment desk, and we have a lot of things going on here. So I was a little bit ambushed here, and I wasn't aware that that's what you guys are going to be doing.
Oh, okay. So let me just say, well, we thank you for coming on and for listening to us. Since you're the assignment desk, do you have any people there who are news persons who perhaps could engage us a little bit?
Not at the moment. Our reporters are out covering stories.
Well, will you tell them we called?
Sure will.
Will you tell them the next time we invite you to come?
Sure will.
You're the assignment desk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you could assign them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you
just have to let us know that it's going on.
Okay, we will call you next time, and we will look forward to you assigning some of your journalists and your writers and others to come and share with us so they can start to get the word out and carry the message and be a part of helping to make America the country it could be and it should be by securing the voting rights of all Americans. You will do that, won't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so very much.
Hold on. Let me tell them about they all can do this, okay? You want to stay here for a second? Hi, what I was telling Maxine is that you may have noticed you had some pieces of paper on your seat when you walked in. Two of them, actually. One's white and one that's more cream-colored. One are resources for you to take home to continue this work on election protection. The other are actions. And one of our speakers who will come up in a little while, Mimi Kennedy, is going to tell you all about that and the people that are waiting in the lobby to sign you up and take action, from everything from Deborah Bowen's campaign to being a poll worker. But one thing we can do is what you just saw Maxine do, and that's call the media. There are several hundred of us here right now, and that's what we should do. So on the back page of that cream-colored action page, there are about 10 numbers of the media. And what we're thinking right now is to take out that small miracle, the cell phone. We don't have a long time, but let's just spend 2 minutes. There's a little script you should just review which says to be polite, to just say you're calling, you're with a lot of people, you're with politicians, with congresswomen, with state senators, and you want to know why you're not seeing this news on the news. Above all, I'd say this. Tell them that just 3 days ago, Princeton University conclusively proved the hack of a Diebold machine, a hack that could hide itself if people are looking for it, that can do what it wants to do, not be caught, and then make itself disappear. And I'd like to know why that wasn't front page news everywhere when 70% of the country is voting on electronic machines. So please find your script. Let's just take 2 minutes if we can, make a quick, polite call. Does that sound good?
It sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
And go to it. Let's
All right.
take a break.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Get those phones out.
Thank you so much.
To be interviewed by them. If they need any information on this, please let them know. It's okay. Oh, Michael.
Did you say that again? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It wasn't that important. Well, no, I mean, yeah, I'll intro.